Winnipeg Jets have made multiple moves, including a move that has Jets fans fired up. We're going to break that down as well as discuss some big injury updates ahead of their next game. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, we are proud to announce that this video is brought to you by Rentals.ca, who are proud supporters of Team Canada. And while they've been supporting our national team defend their home court in international competition, they've also been helping thousands of Canadians find their home floor all across the country. And it doesn't matter what city you are in, whether you're in Toronto, whether you're in Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, it does not matter. Winnipeg, Mississauga, Edmonton, Victoria, St. John's, it doesn't matter where you are from coast to coast. Rentals.ca has a ton of options to find the perfect place and price for you.
Their website is clean and easy to use, and you can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to move, finding all the options in your area. Find your home court with Rentals.ca.
Yeah, check out the website in the pinned comment or the description down below. And shout out to Rentals.ca for supporting our channel, supporting Team Canada, and supporting you guys for finding the best rentals across the country. So thank you guys again. And thank you to Rentals.ca for sponsoring this video. Darius, we have a lot to go over today. The Winnipeg Jets have been scuffling as of late, really over the past month. And we have some injury updates to discuss. We have some moves to break down. And let's start with the moves here. You can see transactions. The Jets have recalled Nikita Shibrikov from the Manitoba Moose. They've also assigned Brand Lambert back to the Manitoba Moose. So we saw a brief bit of Brad Lambert. I'll get your thoughts on that as well. What are your thoughts on these moves here? They're obviously trying to make things work. Brad Lambert came up for a little bit. He played okay, I think. I don't think he played terrible. It's an interesting rotation of forwards. We'll dive into that tweet here in a second. I just want to get your initial thoughts on these moves from the Jets, calling up Nikita Shibrikov and sending down Brad Lambert.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, Brad Lambert has had a tough season, right? He has not started well when he was sent back to the AHL's Manitoba Moose. And then it kind of continued and has been lingering a little bit throughout the season. It has gotten better. And then he got the call up to the Jets. And one thing to note as well is it looked like he was the extra skater coming on when they pulled the goalie the other night as well. Again, another loss. They've kind of been sputtering as of late. But hoping to get back on the right track. So there is some trust in the young player, and I think that's good because obviously going forward, he's supposed to be, one of the better prospects coming up and should make an impact with the team going forward. So that is good, but I think, this season he hasn't gotten off to the right foot. He's going to need some more time to kind of marinate in the AHL, and he'll be, right back to it, and he should be a difference maker for the Jets in the future. But, this recall, again, I think that it's just they needed to call somebody up because of injuries, of course. I think it has less to do with Shibrikov than it has to do with Lambert. I think they want Lambert to go back to the AHL, just find his confidence again, continue to play well and do his thing. So I think it's more about that than anything else. And then obviously Ehlers, who we'll get to, has been out with injury, right? So they need somebody up there. That's kind of why Brad Lambert was called up as well. And the injury has been lingering a little bit. So this is something that I don't think that they foresaw happening, and I'm sure they wanted Lambert to go down, pretty timely here. But I think it's more about just getting Lambert's confidence back up, getting him to play with the Manitoba Moose, and that'll be it. But I do think that this is still a good player, and he'll make a difference with the Jets, in the future.
Yeah, you think about where he was last year, the year before that, he was really turning into one of the top prospects in the NHL. We've seen his name be floated around in trade talks for a lot of high-end talent. He's had a bit of a rough start to the year, but like you mentioned, right before he got called up, he was really starting to find his footing, and hopefully, and I still think he will ultimately find his footing in the NHL. But you can see this here from Murat Atis. He said Shibrikov up, Lambert down. This is an interesting rotation of rewards for Jets prospects in the A. Seems to indicate that Nikolaj Ehlers won't be ready for tomorrow. And again, Lambert got his chance, and now you get Nikita to come up and give him a chance at the NHL level, see what he can do. He's playing fine as well with the Manitoba Moose. But I don't know, I would have liked to see maybe Brad Lambert a little bit longer. That being said, I still think if you watch the games, there's work to be done for his game down in the AHL with the Manitoba Moose. So I think it's probably ultimately the right call. However, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him going forward. So any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think we'd be surprised to see him again this season. But I think again, like I said, it's more about him getting more reps in the AHL, getting his confidence back up than anything else, I think, at this point. And I think that's a good point that, you see some inconsistencies in his game, and he's going to figure that out in the AHL. It's not a bad thing that he's being sent back to the AHL, right? They're trying to develop him into a everyday NHLer who can make a difference for this team. So I think that that's totally fine. And again, it's not like he's having a terrible season or anything like that. It's just for his standards and where Jets fans thought he would be at this point in his development. It was a little bit of a slow start. So I think it's more about, don't push him into the NHL right just yet. Make sure that his confidence is up. He's feeling good about his game, and he's doing the things that you need him to do in the AHL. So then they translate to the NHL level as well. So I think it's more just about that.
Yeah, and obviously he got called up because of the injuries. Probably wouldn't have got called up this early if the injuries weren't a factor. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And speaking of injuries, Jets head coach Scott Arniel has asked for an update on Nikolaj Ehlers and when he might resume skating. His words don't convey much certainty. The dynamic winger has missed the last 5 games, and the Winnipeg power play has gone 2 for 15 during that time. And they were able to squeak a win here and there, but their power play, which at the start of the season when they went 15 or whatever it was, was a huge plus. Their penalty kill was obviously a huge plus, and that was one of the biggest changes from Rick Bowness last year to the new coaching staff with Scott Arniel and others. I mean, with these new coaches and it's not as good now. It's 2 for 15. It's now on them to adjust. Obviously, you don't have Nikolaj Ehlers, which is a big problem. He's one of the best goal scorers on the team. Not necessarily. Obviously, you have Scheifele, you have Kyle Connor, you have a lot of other guys, but Nikolaj Ehlers is very important and a very important part, especially of the power play, which, like you mentioned, 2 for 15 there. And he is not at the morning skate this morning with the group. I understand that he was on the ice by himself beforehand, who Murat wasn't there for that part. So diving into the lines here a bit, Darius, and again, this is without Nikolaj Ehlers. You have Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Perfetti, Nemestikov, Shibrikov, so he's going all the way up to the second line. Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, Morgan Barron, Kapari, and Alex Iafallo. So they're keeping the fourth line together. They're keeping the third line together, and they're sliding in Nikita Shibrikov. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, let me know in the comment section. I'm sure you already have by this point if I did, but I'm pretty sure it's Nikita Shibrikov. And then, of course, Gustafsson alternating with Rasmus Kapari, and then Morrissey, DeMello, Fleury, Pionk, Stanley, Hanola, with Coghlan and Colin Miller once again getting healthy scratch. And, of course, Connor Hellebuck's going to factor into the net in between the pipes tonight. But what are your thoughts on the whole Ehlers situation, the team not playing nearly as well without him, of course, the power play, and the lines ahead of tonight's game, or
That's very
next game?
It's very interesting. They do play tonight against the Boston Bruins,
Yep.
so that's another team who's, started to play a little bit better since firing their coach, and they had a tough start to the season. So it's going to be an interesting game against, the Boston Bruins. And again, Hellebuck is starting tonight. Colin Miller again left out of the lineup, so they're really giving it a good try here with Stanley and Hanola, to see what they have together. And again, Shibrikov, I think, going into the second line, it's just more about what you have with your first line, your third line, and your fourth line already because they've been playing together, right? So it's very interesting. Missing Ehlers, like things have dried up a little bit. 2 for 15 on the power play in their last 15 attempts. They were almost clicking at a 45% rate at the start of the season, the first 15 games of the season. So that's a historic clip. So yes, you do think that they're going to regress a little bit in that way. Like it wasn't going to stay that high, but this has been a problem. I don't know if it's just Ehlers missing. I think there's guys like Kyle Connor. Like the scoring has kind of gone away, and that's kind of an issue the last couple of games. They have to get back to playing their game and doing that those things right and putting the puck to the net and in the net, because that's something they've kind of gotten away from. The power play's dried up. With the power play drying up, you're seeing some inconsistencies in their game a little bit, so they have to get back to playing their game. And listen, it's the same players, the same coaching staff, the same goaltender that had that run at the start of the season. This is something that happens to teams sometimes. I think that they can find it again. I think they're closer, honestly, to what they were at the start of the season than what we're seeing right now, because they have a very high-flying offense. We've seen it. Kyle Connor, obviously, when Perfetti's playing well, Nikolaj Ehlers, he's out of the lineup. He makes a big difference. So I think they're closer to what we saw at the start of the season than what we're seeing right now, and it's more of a mental game too. This happens in the middle of season sometimes, so it's going to be interesting to see. But the defense, they got to figure that out too. Scott Arniel and the coaching staff, they have to make a decision on what they're looking at right now, because they're trying a few different things. They're getting away from kind of what worked earlier in the season against, Sandberg being out makes a big difference as well, but they kind of got to start solidifying some things, I think.
Yeah, Perfetti had his 2-goal game a couple weeks ago, November 29th, I think it was, and since then he's been ice cold. Scheifele's been dealing with that lingering injury, so hopefully the team gets back healthy. And let us know down below what your thoughts are on all of that, and make sure to hit the subscribe button, and hopefully the Jets can take home a win tonight. See you guys later.